What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through the defender review on day 2 of our positional reviews. So if you guys didn't watch the goalkeeper review yesterday, I'd recommend going and watching it. Very nice kind of introduction on how we're going to do this video. But if you guys have watched the channel for a few seasons, you know exactly what's going to happen. If you're new to the channel, basically what I'll be doing here is going over the defenders. I'll be going over their stats, and hopefully by the end of it deciding who's the best defenders to target at the different price points. So hopefully a super useful video. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now we didn't go over this stat in terms of the goalkeepers, but one that I always kind of start off with is mins per game. And in this video, I'll be splitting up the 5.0 plus defenders and then the 4.5 defenders. So let's highlight the more pricey defenders to start off with. Just a reminder, 5.0 plus. Now there was a filter. I didn't kind of go over every single defender in the game. I think there was a filter about 1,000 minutes last season, but it might have been even less. So the reason why you guys want to go over a player that plays the majority of games is that therefore gives them more chances of FPL returns. Now on the x-axis, this is actually how many games they had played last season, and on the y-axis, we've got mins per game. So that top right hand side is really where you guys want to target. These are nailed options in their respective defenses, but there are some options, for example a Munoz from Crystal Palace that only played about 15 games but played the majority of minutes in each of them. That middle of the park bracket is kind of a Trent, a Trippier. These are options that might be subbed on the 80-minute mark. They had some injuries here and there last season, so didn't play every single game, but when they do, they play the majority of minutes. I'd probably say that you want to go for a player that plays at least 70 plus. Anything less than that, they might be subbed before the 60-minute mark, such as a Ben Chilwell, which you never love to see. So once again, it's a fine line for the defenders between getting their clean sheet and being subbed off, and then losing their clean sheet later on into the fixture, so early subs might not be that bad for certain defenders. So this graph gives you a very kind of general look. As mentioned, you probably look at this at the end, but you're probably targeting nailed defenders anyways, and most of us know that top right hand side. The one interesting thing I want to focus on is going to be the Man City assets. You guys can see Guardiola, Akanji, and Ruben Diaz all around that kind of 30 to 28 games. And when they do play, they play the majority of fixtures. So are these defenders actually more nailed than we think? You'd probably take a 30-game season from any of your Man City defenders. So are we actually overthinking their rotation? Now with the Liverpool fullbacks, such as a Trent and Robertson, this was under Klopp, so maybe Slot doesn't rotate as much, or sub Trent and Robertson off that early. All things to take into account when kind of selecting those defenders, especially those premium ones. Now let's switch over to the slightly more busy 4.5 range, the exact same metrics, mins per game and games played, and the top right hand side is probably where you guys want to look. The only reason why I'm saying that is at 4.5, you just need a defender that plays basically every single game. A clean sheet here and there is going to be great value, and that's why I'm looking at someone like an Anderson, Robertson and a Konza. So some question marks about a Konza potentially being not as nailed as we think, but 35 games played, basically 90 minutes in all of them. Unless there's some new signings, Konza should be nailed. But Anderson for me played the max games and the max minutes, same as a Kilman. At 4.5, he's probably your gem to look at. Other players I'm looking at is someone like a Mikalenko, played about 27 games there, but almost 90 minutes in all of them. He has suffered a little bit with injuries though. Another popular option, Dan Burn, also played the majority of games and the majority of minutes, but he might be susceptible to a late sub. But you guys can pause the screen right now if you want to select whatever 4.5 you have in your team. As mentioned, I'm on Anderson, Robertson and Konza at the moment, and they all look pretty respectable. Now the next few graphs are going to revolve around the more expensive, more premium assets, because now we're turning our attention to the attacking threat. But don't worry, at the end of the video I'll be going over the 4.5s in all their glory. So on screen right now, I'm going to go over the XG involvement per 90 minutes of all these defenders, 5.0 plus. Now I also added a filter in terms of XG involvement, and that's why you don't see every single kind of defender on your screen. That just simply means they aren't that attacking. Now there's two players that you probably have your eyes on at the moment. The one is on the right hand side, Alexander-Arnold. You guys know that he kind of offers that massive attacking threat, but the one I want to talk about is Reece James on the left hand side. So sitting solely above that 0.6 XG involvement per 90 minutes is Reece James, the FPL legend. He might be legendary for a bad reason though. You guys know him kind of gets injured every second week, but this does show you when he does feature, he is involved in that attacking threat. Even someone like a Ben Chilwell, these Chelsea fullbacks, when they do play, they get forward. There's just been so many question marks about their fitness that I probably wouldn't go there until they look fit. All your regular suspects though, Robertson is competitive with Trent when he does play, and you're saving 1.0 million at the end of the day. Kieran Trippier also looks quite strong, Pedro Porro, a player that just scored in preseason on the weekend. These are the more exciting picks, but the clean sheet threat might not be there. In terms of clean sheets, you guys can look at someone like a Ben White, Guardiola or Gabriel. Guardiola with a little bit of an upgrade in terms of attack over Gabriel. Ben White showing why he is worth 6.5 if you guys do want to go there. And otherwise we get to some pretty bad attacking numbers. On the left hand side, in terms of a Stupinan, if he does return back to full fitness, he could be a selection if you guys want to look at him. I spoke about Barco, but unfortunately he wasn't in the latest Brighton friendly. But if he can replicate those Stupinan numbers at a cheaper price, he might be golden. Bradley also, in terms of Liverpool, comes in cheaper. If Trent and Robertson aren't necessarily fit, maybe Bradley gets some minutes, but I can't see that too much this season. Now the next stat we're going to go over is going to be a very kind of similar stat. It's going to be expected FPL points per 90 minutes, and this is from Fantasy Football Fix. So in terms of defenders, there's two kind of avenue of points. The first one is defensive returns, that's going to be clean sheets, things like that, and the second avenue is attacking threat. So what you guys are going to see is there are going to be some players here that actually have some very strong defensive threat, your Arsenal options for example. Then you're going to see someone like a Trent that might not have kept as many clean sheets but offers those attacking threat returns, and he's also putting up good numbers. Now once again, per 90 minutes, therefore the player had to have played 60 minutes in that fixture to get the clean sheet, so some defenders would have been punished from that. So this kind of spells it out very nicely for us. You can see in that 5.0 bracket, we have some more differential options. I've always said this, if we get news of who's going to start at left back, unfortunately now it looks like it's going to be the new signing at 6.0, but if it's Kyriar or Zinchenko, they could be great value. Once again, Reece James is looking mighty fine at that kind of expected FPL points range, as well as Ben Shaw on the other side of the fullback. Now what you guys can kind of see here in terms of expected FPL points, the previous kind of graph incorporated XA as well as XG, and this differentiates the two because a defender gets more points per goal. So an easy way to see this is Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. Trent offers more attacking threat in terms of goals and therefore outscores Robertson in terms of the expected FPL points, so quite a big gap between them. Now what I also want to kind of bring your guys' attention to is the fact that the players at the bottom of the screen aren't bad value. I cut this graph off at 4.5 expected points per 90 minutes, which is pretty high. So Gabriel and Pedro Porro are still great options, but Guardiola seems like the standout Man City selection. The only concern, as always with Man City, is are these players actually going to feature, but the first graph told us that he's pretty nailed in that Pep lineup. So to give us some more clarity, I've actually combined these two graphs together in terms of XG involvement and expected FPL points, so let's note a few players. Once again, you guys can see in terms of XG involvement, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, pretty similar, but Trent does take the edge in terms of goal threat, and that's why you guys are paying the premium price. I do think, however, Robertson could be good value for money if he does look nailed, and Liverpool look like they can actually keep a clean sheet. Kieran Trippier might be a great selection, all eyes on if he actually leaves Newcastle, because if Livramento puts up the same numbers, he could be absolute gold. Pedro Porro, another selection that has a very high kind of XG involvement, but their clean sheets aren't there, and that's where the expected FPL points take a knock. Whereas the reduced attacking threat of a Ben White, Guardiola, and Gabriel still offers some good expected FPL points because of that clean sheet threat. So hopefully this graph does make sense to you. As mentioned, there's two avenues for points, defensive and attacking returns. Arsenal, Man City, good for those defensive returns, whereas Liverpool, always good for the attacking ones. Now that Saliba's on this graph, I can point out the increased attacking threat of someone like a Gabriel. You guys can see if both these two options are nailed, there's no reason not to go for a Gabriel over Saliba, unless there's a question mark about minutes. Ben White also offers that more kind of attacking threat and therefore more kind of expected points, which might be worth the 0.5 upgrade. I think most of us are looking at some cheaper options though, so I'm going to skip ahead to the 4.5 bracket. I do apologize for the reduced labels, but there's a lot more players to talk about. So top right hand side, Reguilon, when he was starting and featuring, he was a great asset. Same with Matty Cash, but there were question marks about his minutes. Interestingly enough, we do have the two kind of fullbacks or more attacking fullbacks from Aston Villa, with Alex Moreno and Cash being top of the list. Ait Nori, you guys know that attack threat is massive, but the clean sheets weren't there. But if he does become nailed, could be an interesting option at 4.5. Now for me, you guys can go to the kind of middle of the bracket there. Anderson with 0.5 about XG involvement. The expected FPL points also look pretty strong, and that's why currently he's my favorite 4.5. Konza even more kind of middle of the park there, doesn't look like he has the most attacking threat, but he is on par with someone like a Mikolenko, which is quite surprising to me. Now just a reminder, XG involvement does compare XG as well as XA, so just keep that in mind. Dan Burn was quite a surprise to me because his XG involvement actually looks pretty decent. Most of us say how he's not that attacking, but his XG involvement's almost around 0.16, and also pretty respectable expected FPL points per 90 minutes. So could Dan Burn actually be a great asset? I mean, compared to Livramento, even when he did feature, had more attacking threat. So is he tempted because he's actually pretty good? Now, similar situation as the previous one, you guys can pause this if you want to. You can even ask me questions in the comments down below. I'd love to get back to you. Or my Discord server, first link in the description. If I have to summarize in terms of the premiums, I think your Arsenal and Man City assets, it comes down to Guardiola versus Gabriel, but you can take a punt on Liverpool and hope they improve defensively. In terms of 4.5s, I think for me it's pretty nailed. I'll be going for an Anderson. Dan Burn has grabbed my attention though, but I still believe the fixtures for Newcastle are quite tough defensively, but I might shake my other 4.5 up to be honest. But who's your kind of defensive setup at the moment? Are you guys going for a Guardiola, Gabriel and a Trent? Big at the back might be back in fashion. Now stay tuned for the video tomorrow, the midfielders and then finally the forwards. Don't miss them, so make sure those notifications are turned on. But this is basically going to wrap the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. As mentioned, this is only day 2 of the positional reviews. We have day 3 and day 4 coming up shortly, so make sure that you guys don't miss those out. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.